Hello, Internet. I'm a Florida native and a university student, and I just wanted to share my experience and maybe clear up some misconceptions and misinformation that some people might have. So in community college, I had two different majors, and spoiler, I changed it again at university. But I did marketing and then psychology in community college. And if anything, there was biased things taught in the marketing major compared to any of the others. For example, in Intro to Business class, they showed a success story video of Mike Lindell, the pillow guy, and my macroeconomics professor wrote the textbook himself, and he was a hustler. He would buy stuff from garage sales and sell it online and all kinds of stuff. He was a libertarian, and it actually convinced me to register myself as libertarian. I had been originally a Republican. So when I was first old enough to vote, I just asked my dad, which I think is what my mom does, and he's a Republican, but they're not the type of Republicans that are hateful in any way. I heard on Crash Course, I think it was sociology, that wealthier Americans tend to be more socially progressive and fiscally conservative, and I think that's appropriate. We're very fortunate. So that's what I was at first, and then the macroeconomics professor was a libertarian, and I switched my party to that. And then psychology was great. I get to university, I decide I want to go for biomedical sciences, so actual like hard science. And the first time I ever learned about climate change was in general biology and general chemistry. First time I ever heard about it. And those are hard sciences. I mean, that's where I first learned the facts, you know. I found it pretty shocking, like in the Greta movie, once you see it and you know what's going on and that we're not doing anything to prevent it, you can't look away. But more shocking, and I looked this up since then, Florida is seen as ground zero, well, it used to be in the US for the changing climate. And we have no education about the human impacts on the environmental collapse we are facing. And so I just want to dispel the misconception that sciences teach you like dogma or whatever, and teach you what to think rather than how to think. I didn't get my strong beliefs and whatever you want to call them, my having researched and feel a certain way about my future based on what we know about environmental science. No one told me to feel that way. I learned about the carbon emissions in General Chemistry 1, and I learned about the ocean acidification in General Biology 1. And since then, I've taken it upon myself to learn more about it because I find it really important. There's no dogma. I mean, they say the central dogma of molecular biology is that, like, DNA codes for proteins, and that's the genes. But that's not like a ritualistic way to live your life. It's not like a cult. And I was originally pretty worried and upset about the ideological surveys they want to do for college faculty, students, etc. But I've calmed down quite a bit. I was actually really surprised my school wasn't with me on thinking that was kind of messed up based on the subreddit. But I don't think there's any way that they can actually enforce that we fill it out. But it's still a little bit authoritarian seeming, you know? Like, there is very much intellectual diversity on campus. But you know what's not allowed on campus? The BDS, Boycott, Divest, Sanction, from Israel for their human rights abuses against Palestinians. There is bias on campus, but it's not the way our governor seems to think it is. And I've been out of high school for many years, but I'm pretty sure there's no critical race theory going on, considering one, that's something that's gone over in law school, which DeSantis should know. He has a law degree, not in K-12. And in K-12 history, we learn about states' rights. I mean, there are mentions of slavery, but I think it's similar to other southern states that are not, maybe not the worst, but certainly do not point out objectively the horrors the atrocities we committed against the natives, the people we captured and enslaved, etc. That doesn't mean that white kids should feel uncomfortable, but we have to know our history in order to avoid making the same mistakes in the future. And that's scary when they don't want us to remember our mistakes of the past. So I'm currently not affiliated with any parties in the US, not the two major ones that they give us as our real options. But out of those, one of them I've noticed has made a marked exit from being tethered to reality, and my governor is pretty frustrating to me, as he's selling Don't Fauci My Florida merch while 1/5 of US new cases are coming from our state. And other things that I think are political stunts that we don't have time for. We're in many emergencies. People are out of work, sick, hungry, can't pay rent. Let's work on some of those and not try to divide us from each other even further.